Instead, they propped their limbs on the ground, clumsily crawling around, crawling straight towards the villa's main door. Not good. Not far from the door is that fishing pond. Look at this appearance. Now Ling plans to control Mona's dive. I endure the pain. We have to rush over to stop it. Yet Mona discovered my actions in advance. Suddenly turned his neck to the back. A pair of big eyes stared intently. Dilated pupils. The corners of his mouth twitched with a cold smile. I advise you not to meddle. This family deserves to die. At this moment, it should have been controlled by someone using dark magic, similar to the legendary Zhuang. I took a deep breath. Speak loudly. Bro, why bother? What grievances can't be discussed over a good conversation? Why use such a vicious method? Dealing with this family. HMPH. Mona glared at me with resentment. The eyes glimmered with resentment. Go away. Don't meddle in other people's affairs. Otherwise, I'll take care of you too. Then she began to crawl again. Completely ignored me, being ignored in front of someone. The axis of my heart has also risen in anger. Shouted loudly. Then there's nothing more to talk about. Okay, watch how I break your evil curse. Can't find a reliable guy. I turned my gaze towards the kitchen, hastily stepping inside. Grabbed a pair of chopsticks in hand. There are many ways to exorcise ghosts. I was just feeling anxious. I only remember dragging Mona to crash into the wall. Actually, there is a more suitable way than that. It's just using chopsticks. Chopsticks have one yin and one yang. Represents the balance of yin and yang. Also has a certain exorcism effect. Wait for me to get the chopsticks. When I rushed out quickly, but I saw Mina had already climbed to the gate. Honestly, I got up and pushed the door. The door was pushed open a crack by her. Outside the crack of the door is a dark, heavy sky. Mona let out a whimpering sound. Squeeze out directly through the crack of the door. Quickly climb towards that deep fish pond. Although my limbs are stiff, able to move but particularly swift. Don't go. I hurriedly caught up. Finally, just before Mona jumps into the pool, someone intercepted the person. She was about to plunge headfirst into the water. I hurriedly lunged from behind, holding her legs tightly, exerted tremendous effort, finally dragged her back to the shore. Mona was still struggling hard, waving hands wildly, scratching out bloody marks on my body. This girl hasn't trimmed her teeth and cheeks in a long time. The claws are sharper than a wildcat's. Almost made me scratch my head in confusion. Once upon a time, I can't be bothered to care. Directly press her wrist down with your knee. A hand was tied around her arm. Free up the other hand. Grabbed a pair of chopsticks. Squeeze her middle finger hard, exerting all my strength to push outward. The method of using chopsticks to drive away ghosts is indeed effective. After I used bamboo chopsticks to pinch her middle finger, Mona's body began to tremble involuntarily, shaking like sifting chaff. Before long, he started rolling his eyes. In the corner of the mouth that jumps around, a lot of white foam also surged out. Come out. I exert force with my hand. The chopsticks were immediately bent into an arc. At this moment, Mona can no longer hold on. Let out a more mournful wail. Then the mouth opened wide. Immediately, another wave of gray aura spurted out from her mouth, float straight up into the air. My heart is cleansed. Quickly released Mona. Then he took out the willow branch he had prepared in advance. Strike fiercely at that patch of gray mist. Willow branch beats the ghost. The more you hit, the smaller it gets. The gray mist was struck hard by the willow branches. immediately shattered into pieces, blown by the cold wind, completely vanished into thin air. Meanwhile, I can still hear the sound of the cold wind, mixed with a piercing scream of a wild cat. Succeeded. First time out. Successfully dealt with the cat spirit curse. My heart is also filled with excitement. Couldn't afford to look more closely. Quickly ran to Mona's side and crouched down. Seeing her lying on the ground, still asleep, he extended his middle finger. She pinched her philtrum. Before long, Mona rolled her eyelids a few times. Yo-Yo slowly awakens. Opening my eyes, I saw myself squatting beside me. A hint of confusion flashed in his eyes. She soon realized that she did not sleep in the bedroom. The clothing also appeared disheveled. Suddenly they screamed, pale-faced, covering the chest with a hand. He asked me loudly what was going on. I sighed, briefly recount what just happened. Mona's face turned pale all of a sudden, full of terror. The frequency of the body's trembling intensified. Hug your knees with your hands. It shakes like a saddle-lipped fish. Stammering, possessed by a ghost. I suppose so. I nodded. It's time to get up again. Mona clutched my arm with a pale face. Spoke with a trembling voice. I gently let go of Mona's hand. Comfort her, don't be nervous. Then he held out the compass. Continued searching in the direction where resentment was most concentrated. It is obvious. The one casting spells from behind. The ability is not considered strong. Otherwise, the cat spirit's curse cannot be easily broken by me. She wants to ensure the success rate of the tree spell. You must hide not far from the villa. As long as I search patiently, we will definitely be able to find the person. Sure enough, as I hold the compass in my hands, in the midst of patiently searching, Yu Guang caught a glimpse of a small garden behind the villa. It seems there are signs of leaves shaking. I immediately reminded Mona. Stay where you are. Then he took off running to chase. Didn't take much effort. We circled around to a small flower bed behind the villa. The vegetation here is quite dense. Not far from me, there is also a small grove of white flowers. I stand outside the white flower forest, looking at the pile of yellow paper at my feet that hasn't been completely burned, and a pool of blood spilled on the ground. I already guessed something in my heart. Then he raised his head, shouted towards the densest part of the forest. Don't hide it anymore. Your evil curse has been broken by me. You must be feeling really bad right now. If you don't hurry to see a doctor, it could cause internal injuries. Fighting magic is a very dangerous thing. You have to give as much as you want to receive. Once the curse you set for yourself is broken by someone else, those who cast curses will inevitably face some backlash. This person who set up the cat forest curse. The cultivation level is not high. Probably just a half-hearted existence like mine. I don't know where I inherited this harmful sorcery. It can be unleashed, but it isn't particularly powerful. As soon as I finished speaking, a person wearing a yellow top walked out of the forest. I recognized him at a glance. This guy is exactly the same as a few hours ago. The delivery guy brings food for Minna. A look of surprise crossed his face. Then suddenly realized. I said so. How did the outsider break into Meng Na's house? Bury those old cat bones under her bed. The one hastily casting a spell on her is an acquaintance. I let out a cold laugh. You said you were dealing with this family. They really went through a lot of trouble. Unexpectedly disguised as a delivery guy. Deliberately getting close to Men Na, to deceive her into trusting him. The young man shook his head, with a face full of willingness to read. I am not pretending. I was originally a delivery person. If it weren't for them forcing me, I won't take the risk to step forward either. I said, how did they force you? Can you tell me about it? There is no love in this world without reason. There will be no hatred without reason. Any criminal harms others. Everyone needs a reason. I hope the delivery person, being able to express all the grievances one has suffered, if the situation is true. I don't mind being a mediator. It is best to promote reconciliation. It's considered a good deed. Little did anyone know the delivery guy laughed. A hint of cruelty spread across his face. That kind of hateful gaze, like a knife, bent into my heart. The voice was hoarse. I can't tell you. In short, the Meng family must die. Do you dare to meddle? I will kill you along with them. I'm speechless. Zinchuo, you've already come this far. What harsh words are you still saying? He seemed to understand what I was thinking. Soon he smiled with a cold glint in his eyes. Kid, you think you've broken my curse. Is that girl really okay? You are too naive. I assure you, this guy definitely won't live much longer. After speaking, he turned and ran into the forest, left with a resentful glare when departing. It feels like a knife stabbing into my heart. I was suddenly startled. I feel this person should say, you will definitely be able to do it. Suddenly, my heart raced. Keep running and catch up. Wait a moment. Today, we must clarify things. That person no longer pays attention to me. Turn and hide in the bushes, running extremely fast, even though I exerted all my strength. I can't believe I can't keep up easily. I can only grit my teeth and keep running after him. My intuition tells me this is definitely a very dangerous person. If we let him escape today, in the future, it will not only be Meng Na who faces revenge. I'm afraid I might also be remembered. He quickly hid into the bushes. In the blink of an eye, it will disappear. I can't care about that anymore. I directly pulled out that Uncle Boo gave me, threw it at his back. Make him stop. But when I hurriedly pushed aside the grass, when they ran to the back of the forest, but all I saw was a pool of fresh blood, and was pulled out, dropped the saber on the ground. However, they did not capture that person's whereabouts. So ruthless. I quickly crouched down, picked up again, looking at the blood on the tip of the knife, feeling a heavy weight in my heart. That knife just now. Ming struck this person in the back. The blade sank into the flesh for at least 2 inches. If an ordinary person received this blow, even if one does not immediately lose the ability to move, at the very least, we should stop to check the wounds. But this person did not care at all. He pulled out the dagger and ran away. He doesn't seem like a normal person at all. A chill ran through my heart. I don't dare to pursue any further. He put away with a gloomy expression, walking back toward the villa. At this moment, Mona has already hidden in the living room. Closed the main gate tightly. I had no choice but to shout from outside the door. Open the door. It's me. Called out several times. The response only came from behind the door. Mona cautiously opened the door a crack, looking outside with suspicion. It's confirmed to be me. With that, he pulled the door open. With a grim face, he rushed towards me and said, how is it? Have the bad guys been caught? There is none. He ran away from me. I shook my head. He looked at Mengna with a serious expression. Ask her about the people outside. What exactly happened during the festival? Why did the other party go to such lengths? Want to drive her to the brink of destruction. Little did they know Meng Na wore an innocent expression. Shake your head vigorously. I don't know. I really don't know. I am just a third-year university student. Still studying. What could I have done to offend her? Jimina's reaction didn't seem like she was lying. I can only temporarily give up on asking. Push the door and walk into the living room. Walked around the house a few times. The silent curse has not arrived, although the cat bell curse has been broken by me. The other party knows your home address. A plan fails. There are still other ways to take revenge on you. It's best to quickly find another place to live. Mona's face was pale, gripping me tightly with anxiety. Is it that I just need to move to another place? That person won't be able to find me. I will be safe. I looked at Mona's face, lips slightly moving, but did not speak. If what you're seeking is an ordinary person, moving is undoubtedly the best solution. But I can see that person's understanding of Mona. It seems to be well understood. I'm afraid that even if we move, it may not be possible to escape. I can only sigh and say, if there's truly no way out, just call the police. Anyway, your family is rich. You can have the police come to protect you. Mona became anxious. Shaking his head again, he said, what good are the police? They don't understand how to catch ghosts. Lioji, I beg you, please stay and protect me, okay? As long as you can guarantee my safety. You can set the price as you wish. As soon as I heard it, I felt unhappy. Zin thought having money is impressive. Look at her. She is a woman. I don't have time to argue. Just shook his head. Not possible. We agreed on this beforehand. I will break the curse for you. Once it's done, we'll be even. Please settle the final payment for me. I've been busy for most of the night. I still have to hurry home to sleep. I am not a cold-blooded person. Only when second master was alive. Once you constantly reminded me. Let me have moderation in everything. Absolutely do not interfere excessively in others' karma. Moreover, I have offended the people of my dream home. I have no idea what its origin is. Interfering recklessly in this matter, the security won't be the same as last time. Burning oneself, this matter at his home, it's much more complicated than I imagined. This time, no matter how much Mena stirs up trouble, I won't accept the challenge. Can't even bother to ask for the final payment. When hurriedly grabbing their belongings, leaving his family's villa, the delivery man's face showed a look of resentment. Still feel a lingering fear. What is the reason? This led him to a bitter conflict with the Meng family. Just had a magical duel. I feel so exhausted that I can't be bothered, thinking about other people's matters. Quickly slipped into the room. Wrapped in the blanket, I had a beautiful sleep. Fighting magic is a wonderful experience, especially since my skills are lacking. Still half-baked. Light is just to respond to experiences. It took me a whole day, waking up from a deep sleep. It was already the afternoon of the second day. I got up after yawning. I feel extremely hungry. So I went outside to find a sesame pancake shop. Made some thin porridge and soy milk. Made do with a meal. Don't say it. Although this business trip is quite dangerous. But the commission Mona gave me was indeed substantial. The deposit is enough for me. I've been splurging for 10 days or so. After I got home, I thought carefully about it. It seems that the troubles in his family are far from over. That woman might come knocking again. To avoid trouble, I simply decided to close the funeral parlor again, spending all day hiding in the study, researching the ancient texts left behind by second uncle. I originally planned to avoid him. There have indeed been some gains. After experiencing that battle of magic, it seems I've suddenly found the trick to cultivating my energy sensitivity. After returning home, I studied hard for 3 days. Eventually, I gradually discovered the existence of the energy sensation, the so-called Kai. It's not the kind of intense battle found in martial arts novels, the inner strength that can shatter stones with just a palm strike from a distance, but rather an intangible, the potential energy emitted in nature and the air, the flow of energy, controlling the lifeblood of this world. It's the same principle as the energy field in Feng Shui, invisible and untouchable, only through the insights of the heart. Slowly capture its flow. Once you grasp the feeling of Kai, whether it's the skill of drawing talismans or chanting spells, there will be a significant improvement. I have not only mastered some faint energy sensing, you can also follow the methods recorded in the Book of the Dead. Draw some simple curved evil symbols, although its power is far inferior to what Second Master left behind. But for me personally, it is indeed a significant improvement. Half a year of closed-door work. Finally, there is a bit of progress. I feel a bit cozy, no longer locking himself in the study all day, planning to go out for some fresh air. Can better sense the breath of nature. Just opened the door of the funeral parlor. I saw the old man selling steamed dumplings across the street. Jing Da is on the side of the street. She smiled and walked up to greet him. Good morning, Uncle Liu. It's so early to start working. Uncle Liu saw it was me. Just stop walking. Turning back, he chuckled. Zio fan, what made you think of this today? Left home early in the morning. I smiled, explaining that they are cooped up at home all day, finally bored to death. So I plan to go for a walk outside. Take a break. Uncle Leo nodded. Yes, that's right. Young people can't stay at home all the time, just thinking about some random things, not even doing serious things anymore. Your second uncle's shop has been neglected for so long. If you don't take better care of it, I'm afraid there won't even be any repeat customers. I smiled darkly, a bit embarrassed. So I won't say anything more, planning to turn and leave. Uncle Liu suddenly called out to me and said, Hey, wait a minute. Let me tell you something. You haven't opened the door these past few days. I saw a girl dressed quite fashionably, loitering near the store entrance from time to time. He even took the initiative to ask me about you. But I was taken aback. I'd instantly thought of this girl. It's very likely the female client, Mina, who asked me for help last time. Zin thought, why can't she let go? He shook his head. He let out a bitter laugh and said, She didn't come today, right? Uncle Liu shook his head. Not yet. Since the afternoon of the day before yesterday, after I told her you weren't home, that girl never came back again. It seemed like they were quite disappointed when they left. I stared at your house for a long time. Uncle Liu's words. It made me feel a little uneasy. It's been several days since then. Why is Menna still inquiring about my whereabouts? Last time I told her to move as soon as possible. I wonder if this woman is actually listening to me, other people's affairs. I can't be bothered to think too deeply about it either. After breaking up with Uncle Liu, so they went alone to the nearby park, by walking, to relieve the feeling of oppression within. When I returned in the afternoon, I passed by Uncle Liu's shop again, bought 2 sesame cakes. I prepared some cold dishes and some liquor. The business at the funeral parlor was sluggish. I drink while leaning against the chair, thinking about the next plan. It feels like I'm wasting my days away. It's not a solution either. If this business is truly to be managed, can't go down, why not just rent the shop out to someone else? You can still collect some rent. At least I won't have to worry about life in the future. A few cups of liquor down. I also feel a bit dizzy. I don't usually drink alcohol, just drinking 2 tails, and I'm feeling a bit lightheaded. So I swayed back to my room, turned to sleep on one side. This sleep was indeed very peaceful. It was only in the late night in a daze. I feel as if something is behind my neck. There is a chilly wind blowing, constantly hovering behind my ears. This wind is very cold and eerie. The wind blown by the electric fan, there is a significant difference. It's like applying a bit of menthol oil on the neck, golden flower dew, then blown by the mountain wind. The shadow is very deep, uncontrollable. Even the pores are all tightly closed. I was originally sleeping very soundly, but after being struck by this cold wind, my mind suddenly became much clearer. Drowsily turned their neck, looking out towards the room. At first, I suspected it was during sleep. I forgot to close the window, but this glance, I found that the window was completely closed. There is no possibility of being awakened by the cold wind. Realized something was wrong. My drunkenness immediately sobered up. Suddenly sat up. Take a closer look. I saw something less than 3 meters in front of my bed. There was a mass of dark, swirling air. It floats like cotton. I can't see what's in that black mist, but clearly felt. Someone is blowing cold air hard by my ear, as a series of whooshing sounds approached. The back of my neck feels cool again. Little ghost. My heart skipped a beat. Quickly recalled. In the Book of the Dead, there is a chapter specifically dedicated to the content of fantasy goblins. Unconscious sentiment in the heart. Of course, nervousness is still there, but I'm not scared yet. After all, I've been self-studying for so long. I can barely be considered half a practitioner now, just an ordinary ghost child. It's not enough to make me feel afraid. I just don't understand. Why did this little ghost come to my house? You want to take action against me in the middle of the night. I didn't disturb that little rascal, just lying still on the side. Silently gazed at the dark, cloudy mass. Silently reached for the pillow, take out a ceramic leaf. Gently wiped the corner of her eye. The energy of the sun is strong on the leaves of the tau tree. When necessary, sorcerers can also use clay leaves to gain sight. Of course, this method is only effective for practitioners who have mastered their Kai perception. Wait while I rub my eyes with a ceramic leaf. When I opened my eyes again, immediately saw someone covered in white, a little boy wearing a floral print. Genjai is awkwardly squatting on the bedside table, staring at me with a strange expression. His head is very large. The top of his head is completely bald. The piece on top is purple, a piece of black. It looks very scary. That it's behind his ear and under his jaw. The dark blue and black kingjin is intertwined. It seemed like dancing branches, matched with those purple-black eyes. Changed to an ordinary person. Maybe it jumped up in fright a long time ago. I didn't jump up. They weren't startled enough to scream. Still as ever, not moving at all. Open your eyes wide, curiously watching the little ghost squatting in front of my bed. According to the records of the Book of the Dead, there are many ways to cultivate a little ghost, originally spread among the trees of Maoshan in China. Like raising clouds, there are no ghosts. Liu Lin Tongzi and others belong to the traditional little ghosts. Next is in Thailand, Malaysia, Khmers, Myanmar, and other places. There is also a popular method for cultivating little spirits, but they don't call it a little ghost there, but is referred to as kumentong. Generally speaking, the most common ways to raise a ghost, it is to open the recently deceased child's grave, grilling childhood memories with a candle, using a small coffin to collect oil, then bring the oil back. So it is necessary to make a sacrifice. Manipulated through a special spell, you can collect the souls of children, using secret methods to refine a little ghost. The power of this thing is not strong. Most people who raise ghosts, it's all about gathering wealth and warding off disasters, house sitting and guarding the property. Of course, there are also many people with ulterior motives, will rely on the little ghost to get rich, even harmful to others. Various methods to deal with little ghosts begins to flash through my mind one by one. I focused my mind, staring intently at the little ghost with a pitch black forehead, then silently recited the 9-character mantra once again, continuously mobilizing within, that only has a trace of warmth. Soon, the chill at the back of my neck began to fade, a gust of scorching air released from the body. It starts to spread all over the body, HMPH. Until this moment, I suddenly widened my eyes, let out a low growl, jumped directly off the bed. He reached out and pulled out an imperial decree, suddenly reached out to grab the little ghost. Ghosts are spiritual bodies. Ordinary people cannot achieve it through physical means, make contact with it. So, when catching ghosts, often one needs to rely on the power of support. Meanwhile, this haunted doll finally became alert. I realized that I could actually see myself. He immediately jumped up from the bedside, jumping swiftly to the windowsill. With the help of Grandpa Tao, I could clearly see where he escaped from. Then the left hand pressed against the bed, leaping with borrowed strength, one lifted arm, directly fling the imperial token from my hand. A loud thud. The imperial talisman was precisely affixed to the back of the ghost child. With a bang, it exploded. A bright flame formed. The ghost child, struck by the emperor's talisman, let out a chilling scream. She turned her neck with great resentment, with a pair of hollow eyes, but accompanied by eyes filled with intense resentment. Gave me a fierce glare. His eyes are hollow. The whites of the eyes occupied 2/3. Looks especially scary. At the same time, lift your lips, revealing a row of fangs that looked like sharp teeth, but did not pounce again, but instead leaped forward, directly drilled out of the window. I want to leave. I let out a cold laugh, quickly stride towards the window. A fist struck the wooden window frame. I intended to reach out and grab the ghost child's back. The result was that I didn't wait for my hand to fully reach out. I heard a bang coming from outside the window. Out of caution, I quickly withdrew my hand. In that very moment, before that ghost attacked me, unexpectedly tied a kitchen knife to the window in advance. Fortunately, I pulled my hand back in time. Otherwise, based on the sharpness of the kitchen knife and the angle of its fall, enough to sever my wrist. Dog appointment, I still have lingering fears. Instinctively let out a curse. At this moment, the ghost child had already climbed onto the courtyard wall, the limbs pushed against the ground. There was once a crooked mouth, eyes filled with resentful provocation. Let out 2 cold, eerie chuckles. Then he leaped over the wall. Stillness has vanished. I was drenched in cold sweat, reaching out to touch his forehead, still feeling cold and chilly. A very bad thought immediately surged in my mind. Ghost Lake's head, the purpose of this ghost child's appearance. It's not meant to take my life, but by continuously blowing cold air at me, extinguish the sunlight on my lantern. Everyone has 3 fires, located on the shoulders and the crown of the head. Once one of the flames is extinguished, it will always be pessimistic, caught in a streak of bad luck, Bad luck. You might choke on a morsel of food. Who is so cruel? Why summon this little demon to harm me in the middle of the night? Snap back to reality. I sat back down on the bed, thinking it over and over. Who have I really offended? But I just can't find the answer. Before, I calculated my loss to the vegetable god. Now it has long become a pile of yellow earth. In the past 6 months, I have been practicing at home. Every day is lived simply and modestly. Don't say you've offended anyone. There are basically no people to talk to. The only one who could possibly be offended. It was only that day at Megna's villa. The delivery guy has run away. Just how could this guy possibly know? Where do I live? I can't figure this problem out no matter how hard I try. Lean against the wall again. But no matter what, I just can't fall asleep. I pondered back and forth all night. In the end, I made up my mind, ready to wait until dawn. Go find Mengna and ask her clearly. Let's see what this is all about. The next morning. The sky hasn't fully brightened yet. I hurriedly got out of bed, changed into a new outfit. I took a taxi directly, the place where the cat forest curse was broken last time. I do not have Meng Na's contact information. Upon reaching the underground, after getting off the car, I followed my memory, walking deep into the neighborhood. Before I even stepped through the gate of the community, he was stopped by a chubby security guard in a uniform, scolded me harshly for my lack of restraint. Stop. What are you doing? We belong to a high-end community. No unauthorized personnel allowed inside. I stopped, looking at the arrogant face of the chubby security guard, feeling angry inside. But it's hard to act out. He took out a cigarette box and smiled. Brother, visiting the hometown for convenience. I want to contact the owner inside. There is a girl named Meng Na. Do you recognize it? The last time I entered the villa, I have been sitting in Meng Na's private car. I have never encountered this chubby security guard. He has no impression of me. He glanced down at the brand of the cigarette. The disdain on her face deepened. Sneered. What is Meng Na Zainas? There is no such person. You should hurry and leave, to avoid being seen by other owners. I dislike that you dirted this place. I instantly felt unhappy. Zinshuo, you think you're so clever. Why speak so harshly? He Ren is under the eaves. I can only hold back my anger. Continue to be polite to him. Elder brother, I am a guest invited by the homeowners of your community. Please be accommodating. It is often said that the king of hell is easy to see. The little ghost is hard to deal with. Today I finally gained some insight. Even the security guards in the neighborhood are so arrogant these days. It's simply unbelievable. I admit that my fashion sense is lacking. From a secular perspective, he's just a bumpkin. Wearing a badge doesn't mean lacking ability. How can he have such a terrible attitude? For me, the fat king is still not pleased. Gave me a glare. With a dark expression, he issued a warning. Kid, either you call directly, have the owner personally come out to meet you. Either you hurry and get lost. I have already said it. This is a high-end residential community. Foreigners do not have the right to intrude without permission. I squint my eyes directly, said coldly, you are not some upscale community. You are just a high-end community. A guard dog hired with money. Quickly get out of the way. You've delayed my important matter. Can you bear the responsibility? There has never been a shortage of scoundrels in this world. When you are kind and gentle to him, the other party will only see you as weak, easy to bully. Once you act fiercer than he does. He immediately transformed into the barking dog wagged its tail and looked up. Although I don't have much ability, I have been able to self-study at home for half a year. I have initially grasped the aural perception of cultivators, plus the ghost Dan given by Lizu to you, still lingering inside me, did not receive refinement, therefore carrying a strong sense of malevolence. This glare, the Fat King was instantly stunned by me, suddenly shivered, blindly retreat 2 steps back. He said with an unnatural expression, Even if I have to go in, you need to register an ID number first, right? There have been a lot of incidents in the neighborhood lately. I am also a worker. It's hard to report to the higher ups. Why are you saying this so early? Isn't that just it? I coldly took out my wallet. Hand over your ID card. Let the security register me quickly. A series of actions. When I walked into the community, it has been over 10 minutes. Fortunately, that chubby security guard got fired because of me. The attitude can no longer be arrogant. He even asked me which villa I wanted to go to. Wait until I mentioned the address of the Mengdai family. The chubby security guard suddenly froze in place. He patted his forehead with his hand. Where exactly are you going? I said, Little brother, that place is haunted. How dare you go there alone? The words of the chubby security guard. Instead, it surprised me. I hurriedly asked him, You also know about that haunted house incident? The chubby security guard nodded. Isn't that right? These days, the news about the Meng family is spreading quickly. I heard someone say, something strange happened in that household. Searching everywhere for Mr. Please. The story is half told. The chubby security guard stopped again. He looked me up and down with a sly grin. It seems like something has come to mind. His expression changed. Are you the master that the Meng family hired for a high fee? I shake my head. It's not worth discussing major matters. But I indeed work in this field. After finishing my words, I headed towards the villa. Walk quickly in that direction. The chubby security guard opened his mouth. It seems like there's something more they want to say, but did not say a word. Very soon, I hurried back to the entrance of the Meng family's house. Before we even entered the courtyard, I heard something inside. Voices of someone discussing passionately could be heard. The house faces southwest. It was originally an excellent Feng Shui direction. Unfortunately, the artificial lake behind the villa, it disrupted the overall fortune of this family. Additionally, the lake is too close to the heroine's window. The south is too hot. There is often moisture lingering in the water. As time goes by, it is possible to allow evil cold to enter the body, causing harm to the female protagonist's body. This piqued my curiosity, then quickly took 2 steps forward. Immediately, I saw a young-looking person, a young man in a wide-sleeved robe, amidst the crowd of people, explaining the Feng Shui of the Meng family. I was taken aback before I could even speak, but the people in the courtyard also saw me. Soon Mengna squeezed through the crowd. Jingdai walked out from there. With a face full of surprise, she held my hand and said, Liu Ji, how did you come back? I'm a bit embarrassed, remembering the last time I left. Once said about oneself, I will never step through this door again. Mind your own business. Now there is an unexpected visit, when I didn't know how to explain it. Mengna has already spoken on my behalf in advance. You must have had a change of heart, unable to bear witnessing death without offering help. So you purposely came back to help me, right? And I suppose so. I rubbed my nose, laughs awkwardly, then pointed at the young Taoist, who was speaking grandly, whispered, This is Mengna scoffed. How can you still say that? Last time you helped me break the curse. But he refuses to continue helping. I can't do it. I had no choice but to tell Dad about this. He was half convinced, half skeptical. So I asked someone to invite a Taoist priest of the righteous teachings. Go home to check the situation. So it turns out he is a Taoist priest. I let out a cry, nod slightly. Once again, I observed the young Taoist priest with a radiant glow on his face. To be honest, this guy looks quite young on the outside. I guess they are about my age, too. At my feet are a pair of canvas shoes with horse soles. Not wearing a square hat. Holding on to the roots of success. At first glance, he truly has the appearance of a monk with a distinguished demeanor. But this little Taoist has very small eyes. The eyes are sharp and narrow. When she smiles, her eyes turn into slits. It gives people a feeling of insecurity. Not only does he lack an air of superiority, instead, it gives a rather sleazy impression. I'm watching that little deist priest. The other party is also sizing me up. The originally confident smile at the corner of his mouth lifted slightly. Then he took the initiative to step forward. With both hands clasped in a fist, he said, "Hello, fellow cultivator. Channel Yang Yi Fan. This is a courteous gesture. May I ask how to address you, fellow traveler?" When he speaks, maintaining a smile on her face, the corners of his mouth curled slightly upward, gives off a hint of a worldly and cynical attitude. But this face is just too young. It makes me feel that he is not steady. However, this person can recognize at a glance. He and I are kindred spirits. It seems they have some skills after all. I quickly returned the gesture with a bow, said with a smile, "My name is Liao Fan. Brother Liang, you're too modest." At this moment, a figure in a black suit walked through the crowd, a burly middle-aged man. Furrowing his brows, he walked towards the door. I glanced at Mei Na standing beside me. "Xiao now, this little brother is—" Meng Na immediately stepped forward and said, "That this person is Liao Ji, whom I told you about. Last time I was scared stiff. He saved me." The middle-aged man was taken aback, then looked at me, changed expressions again, smiled broadly. "It turns out to be Master Liao. It's such a pleasure to meet you. The young girl is still inexperienced in the world. I apologize for any previous neglect. I hope you can be more forgiving." I said with a smile, "Uncle Meng is too polite. I am about the same age as your daughter. This title of master is truly undeserved. Just call me Zio Liao." While speaking, I haven't forgotten to observe Meng Na's father. This person is about 1.7 meters tall, handsome in appearance, has the demeanor of a successful person, a square-shaped face with a strong jawline, appears quite imposing, just messy eyebrows. Her brows are slightly curled. Next is above the mountain root, always surrounded by a faint black and yellow aura. At a glance, she was walking with elegance. His facial features are not very good. Black energy in the brow. It's even more serious than what Magna is dealing with. I found it quite perplexing. Xin thought about this family. Why is everyone so unlucky? I have completed my self-introduction. I followed the father and daughter. Jin Jai went to the living room. I can tell Meng Na's dad is a socialite, talking and doing things without leaving a trace. The attitude towards me and the young Taoist Yang Yifan is also quite respectful. As for that young Taoist, Yang Yifan, always wearing a playful grin, a carefree demeanor, while Meng Na's dad went to pour tea, she even came closer. He poked my elbow, a familiar expression. Liao Fan, which lineage do you belong to? At a young age, you can become a Feng Shui master. That's impressive. I am so humble that it's not that I'm impressive. It's just that the employer has favored me. In fact, I can't really call myself a proper Feng Shui master. It was just a coincidence that I got caught up in this turmoil. At this point in the story, I curiously asked the young Taoist priest, how was I invited by Meng Na's dad? The young deist priest chuckled and laughed. No response either. A call comes in saying ha ha. Encounter by chance. Seeing his oil gun slip away. I can't be bothered to ask. Taking the opportunity to observe the situation inside and outside the villa. At first glance, I have discovered many problems again. I always feel like Meng Na's home. In this big villa, a faint sense of gloom always lingers. It's different from when I came last time. It has become even more serious. This scene brings peace to my heart. Hurry to find Meng Na. Didn't I tell you last time? It's best to move quickly to avoid it. Why are you still living here? Meng Na and I are considered acquaintances now, not being distant. He leaned closer to me, mumbled very softly. This villa. It was passed down from my grandfather. I've lived here for over 20 years. My dad is reluctant to move. This time he specifically invited that young Taoist priest. Come to my house for the ritual. It's also to completely resolve the troubles at home. I let out a bitter smile, glancing at the young monk Yang Yifen, yet secretly feeling rebellious in my heart. This young Taoist priest is just as young as I am. At first glance, they don't seem like a formidable character, relying solely on him. I just want to deal with the trouble here. It may not be possible. I only said this in my heart once, but there was no expression on the face. After a little while, Boss Meng also brought over some tea. He politely invited us to take a seat. Then they talked about their own family matters. I only just found out now, since Liao Wang left. The Meng family has encountered another strange incident. It was precisely because of this strange incident. Meng Na's father, who has never believed in the supernatural, decided to invite a Taoist priest to come home for a consultation. The reason for the events is as follows. After I left that day, Meng Na was scared. So I took the initiative to contact my dad, told him about what happened to me. Meng Na's dad initially didn't believe it much, still suspecting that my daughter has been deceived. The day after tomorrow, he hurriedly took Meng Na's stepmother back home. I planned to take a good look at the situation at home. But on the night she returned home, an accident happened again. It was the late night. There were many wild cats howling outside the villa. Open the window. You can even see a large number of old crows circling in the sky outside the villa, continuously making quacking sounds, even crazily smashing against the window. Annoying. Afterwards, Meng Na's stepmother was using the bathroom again at night. Suddenly saw outside the ventilation window. A pale ghostly shadow lay down, fell down in shock, almost had a miscarriage. Shen Yun, Meng Na's stepmother's name. I am already 3 months pregnant. With this sudden hit, that night a high fever broke out. I quickly contacted the doctor. The result is found. She is experiencing a miscarriage. Fortunately, the doctor arrived in time. There wasn't much danger after all. It is. That's it. At this point in the story, Meng Na's dad looked a bit grim. Yang Yifen and I exchanged a glance. Shuing asked, what happened next? She had a high fever. I have been bedridden for the past few days. The spirit has also worsened. Finally, nonsense again. talking about dreaming of a swollen forehead, a child with dark and curly hair, lying on her stomach, continuously calling her mom, still shouting, "Want milk to drink." Maybe it felt, "This is too difficult to speak about." Meng Na's father did not continue to speak. "Quickly stop. Look at me and Yang Yifen. For the sake of—" I consulted several doctors. They couldn't do anything about her. Had several fever-reducing injections. Her mental state is still very poor, so I suspect something unclean might have really come into the house. I nodded. He asked again, "Why don't you take her to move out? The conditions in the hospital are better than here. It's also more convenient to care for the pregnant woman at any time." Mona's dad said with a bitter smile, "I also don't want her to be hospitalized. But for some reason, Shenyun just needs to leave this villa. The mind will become particularly tense. In broad daylight. She said there was a ghost child choking her neck. I'm truly at my wit's end. Had to send the person back again." I stopped asking. He began to feel his chin with his hand. "If I remember correctly, around midnight last night. A ghost child has also come to my house. It is precisely because of this reason. I just decided to return to the Meng family to see how things are. Could it be that this ghost child is haunting Mona's stepmother? Last night, my little ghost was with me. It's the same one." Thinking of this, I stood up immediately, wondering if I can take a look at the pregnant woman. The young Taoist priest Yang Yifen also agreed. Since the issue mainly occurs in pregnant women, we really need to take a look at the condition of the pregnant woman. Mona's dad nodded. "Get up and speak." "All right then. Please follow me, both of you." Speaking, he turned around and led us to the second floor of the villa. While climbing the stairs, Mona gently tugged at my arm, complained softly, "Lioji, you are the one I hired with my money. I don't know why you don't care about me at all. As soon as you enter, you have to go see that vixen. I can see it. Mona really doesn't like her stepmother. All the dislike is written on my face. And she doesn't really want me to get involved with her stepmother's affairs." I can only smile bitterly, shaking his head. "Your stepmother's problem. It may concern the safety of your entire family. I am not just helping her. I am also helping you. Since the first time I entered this villa, I had a premonition. The one hiding behind, scaring people. His first target might not necessarily be Mona. Otherwise, there would be no need to pretend to be a delivery guy. It's taken so long with Menna. Directly take advantage of the time while delivering food. Isn't it okay to stab her? I have deep doubts. The other party can cast those curses. The true goal, it should be to target Mona's relatives. Now it seems, perhaps this stepmother she has never met is the true victim." While speaking, we have already gone up to the second floor of the villa. Arrive at the room at the end of the second floor hallway. Mona's dad opened the door for us. Whispered, "Two masters, please be careful. My partner is sleeping. Please try not to wake anyone up. As soon as she wakes up, maybe it will go crazy again." Yang Yifen and I nodded in agreement. They carefully walked into the master bedroom. Our master bedroom is particularly large. It can match the living room of an ordinary family. I slowed down my pace, slowly walked to the bedside. He gazed intently at the woman sleeping on the bed. Suddenly my heart tightened, could not help but exclaim, "Whoa, what the hell is this?" On this spacious bed, a woman in her late 20s is lying down. Standard oval face, sunken cheeks, with eyes closed. The long eyelashes trembled slightly. It felt like enduring immense pain. a head of yellow wavy curls, scattered on the pillow. Although in pain, it looks quite charming. It's no wonder that Mengna has always been strict with her stepmother, called the fox spirit. This woman is beautifully radiant, and naturally possesses charming eyes. It's true that someone who knows how to read facial features can easily captivate the hearts of others. Of course, what truly shocked me wasn't this, but it's the woman on the bed. A dark aura lingered between the cheeks. The entire mountain root is shrouded in a black and yellow aura. Hu Wei's face also showed some purplish black hues, especially her slightly protruding lower abdomen. It felt as if it had been given the breath of life, wriggling under the thin blanket. Looks particularly frightening. According to reason, a woman who is less than 3 months pregnant, although the belly is slightly swollen, but it will never seem too obvious. But this woman named Chen Yan is different. Her belly is quite prominent. It looks like she's been pregnant for 6 or 7 months. And beneath the bulging belly, a deep gray malevolence is clearly surging. Just the presence of that aura fills me with fear. I am not the only one who is shocked, including the young monk Yang Yifen who accompanied me upstairs. He widened his eyes. He looked incredulously at the pregnant woman's bulging belly. It took a full 10 seconds. Only then did he tremble his lips and say, "Oh heavens, this is a miscarriage." What is called a miscarriage usually refers to some women after death. Due to certain special circumstances, the fetus in the womb can still survive, continuing to grow by absorbing the nutrients from the mother, as long as she can be taken out at the right moment. There is also the possibility of growing up. In simple terms, this type of fetus is referred to as a government-born child. Because it was born from death, so it is inevitable to carry a natural negative aura. Usually, children like this grow up to be very unfortunate, destined to guard against others and oneself. But the fetus in Chen Yun's womb is different. Though this fetus harbors strong grievances, Chen Yun can serve as the mother figure, yet still alive. It is a normal pregnancy. But since it is a normally developing fetus, why is there such strong resentment in the air? All of a sudden, Yang Yifen and I were both stunned. Stunned, I stood in front of the bed for a long time, then involuntarily swallowed saliva. Yang Yifen took a step back, look at me and say, "Liao Fan, can you figure it out? What is going on here?" I smiled wryly, shook his head. "You wouldn't be able to tell I'm a serious Taoist. I have half a bucket of water. Where can I find out?" However, I paused again in the middle of my words. Like a pregnant woman surrounded by evil energy, her small belly said with a sullen expression, "The child in her womb did not seem to have been conceived naturally. If I'm not mistaken, I'm afraid that shortly after she became pregnant, it has already been tampered with." Yang Yifen deeply agrees, quickly retracted the cheerful expression, nodding earnestly. "Not bad. Under normal circumstances, pregnant women are endowed with a special aura. The fetus in the belly represents a birth of new ideas. In a state of chaos between yin and yang, it's impossible for such a sinister cult atmosphere to arise. Unless Yang Yifen and I both thought of something, uncontrollably furrowing my brows, looking again at the pregnant woman on the bed, feeling extremely tricky. If I'm not mistaken, the fetus in her belly, it has already been planted with unfulfilled wishes. In simple terms, someone is collecting dead children, crafted through dark sorcery. A strong aura of disappointment is formed. Then, that person once again vented this feeling of frustration, forcefully transitioned onto the pregnant woman, let the breath of lost wishes gradually occupying the body of the developing fetus. She brutally killed the baby in her womb. After the real baby dies, the feeling of disappointment. You can take the Taojiang route, occupying that body, then merge with it, become a true ghost baby. The growth of the ghost baby at each stage all require a large amount of maternal nutrients. Wait until the ghost baby becomes strong, when one can break free from their own body, the vitality of that pregnant woman. It will also be completely plundered clean. Then he collapsed and died. Such a cruel method. Yang Yifen took a deep breath of cold air. Look at me and say, the nature of this matter is too vile. I don't know who cast this curse. What grievance is there with the Meng family? How could they set such a wicked curse? I didn't say anything, just lost in thought. Look at the pregnant woman on the bed, glimmering slightly in the eyes. Afterwards, I arrived outside the room, Mina's dad guarding the entrance to the orthogonal intersection. I want to talk privately. Meng Na's dad did not refuse. Accompanied us to smoke outside on the balcony. I spoke directly and got straight to the point. Uncle Meng, there's something I don't know whether to say or not. Who exactly did you offend? I'd rather bear such a heavy consequence. I will also go after your whole family. You need to know. Practicing dark arts comes with a price. The aura of a person will follow their own actions. There have also been reversals and changes. Murdering a pregnant woman is against the natural order. Once you do something like this, they will inevitably face divine retribution. Bearing the immense karma, ordinary people do not understand the mystery behind this. So there will be no reservations. As a practitioner, the one hiding behind, the person casting the spell knows this well, unless it's hatred to the extreme. Otherwise, the other party has no reason to do this. But face my questioning. Mona's dad, however, had a face full of, shook his head in confusion. I don't know. I have been doing business all these years. If I offended someone, most likely those competitors in the business field. But everyone relies on their own skills to make a living, even if it's due to a minor business conflict and generated hostility. There's no need to be so ruthless. Yang Yifen frowned and said, think it over carefully. Besides those offended in business, is there anyone you've offended in private? Not available. Mona's dad shook his head with certainty, said with a bitter smile, 2 masters. It's not me boasting. These years, besides managing the company, I have done quite a few good deeds. Young children reach into their pockets, donated to a Hope Primary School. Although I don't really believe in Feng Shui, but also understands the principle of doing good and accumulating virtue. How could you offend people everywhere? His words left me speechless. Mona's dad has a rather square-shaped face. At first glance, he seems like a rather upright person. Such a person, even if they have a few tricks up their sleeve, it wouldn't go so far as to commit a heinous act. It seems that the main reason for the situation, indeed, it is not on him. It's not that he offended anyone. Who could it be? I quietly shifted my gaze. Fix your gaze on the bedroom door. Sighing slightly, she said, unfortunately, the patient has fallen into a deep coma, somewhat confused. Otherwise, I could wake him up and ask him. Just like I said, there is no love without reason in this world. There won't be hatred without reason, combined with the last time. The conversation between me and the delivery guy. It can be basically confirmed. It was Meng Jaya who first did something to apologize to the other person. Only then will it provoke the other party's crazy revenge. We lingered on the balcony for a long time, but couldn't find out anything. Jiang Mendez, Dan. That look of confusion and uncertainty. I feel a bit discouraged. Reluctantly, I had to give up. Shaking his head, he walked back down the corridor. This family is particularly tricky. I couldn't sort out my thoughts for a moment. I was planning to find a quiet place to sit for a while, originally guarding the corridor, Mona, but walked over quickly. He tugged at my arm and said, "How is Lio, G? What problems have you noticed? Why does everyone look as black as a pot bottom? I feel quite helpless." So he sighed, recognizing one's own problems. All told to Mona. Mona was instantly frightened, suddenly let go, step back 2 steps directly, lean against the wall, and say, "That being said, the child in that fox spirit's belly, it could very likely harm our entire family." I nodded. "Say yes." The other party put in so much effort. Not only is there a cat spirit curse set up in this house, still harboring that sense of disappointment, the blame was placed on the pregnant woman Chen Yan. It is clear that it's not just about raising the ghost eagle, but plans to harness the power of the ghost eagle to complete the revenge. If I'm not mistaken, once the ghost eagle encounters trouble, it was when the entire Meng family was wiped out. As soon as I spoke, Mona immediately screamed. He shouted at me eagerly, "What are we waiting for? Hurry and take this vixen to the hospital. Take the fetus out of his belly and kill it." Mona shook my hand vigorously. "How can you be so cruel?" HMPH. Mona let out a cold laugh. "What's wrong with my brother? He hasn't been born yet. What does it have to do with me? Furthermore, this little cub was born. In the future, they will definitely compete with me for the inheritance. It's better to resolve it sooner. The ways of the world and the hearts of people. It is indeed very frightening." I did not agree. He continued to shake his head. "Things are not as simple as you think. Once the ghost eagle is forcibly extracted, the life of the pregnant woman cannot be saved either. What is that thing now? Already rooted in the pregnant woman's body. A mother's spirit and her child are connected. It's not that easy to resolve." Mona said angrily, "What should we do?" "Let's get rid of this vixen too." I glanced at her, remained silent, silently turned and went downstairs. Arrived at a deserted place, light a cigarette. While smoking by the door, Lion furrowed his brow, contemplating his next move. "To be honest, I really don't want to deal with this family's issues. Unfortunately, the little ghost that appeared last night. But it made me realize I'm afraid I might have been resented by others too. If you cannot act in time, resolve this matter. There will be a day when bad luck finds me too. Thinking of this, I just wish I could slap myself. When Second Master was alive, after countless reminders, I am always on guard and cautious. Why am I still caught up in someone else's karma?" Just when I was feeling frustrated, footsteps were heard approaching from behind. I turned back, seeing the young monk Yang Yifen, wearing a faint smile, walked towards me with quick steps, and familiar as always. Put your hand on my shoulder, smiled with squinted eyes. "Liao Fan, the situation is pretty much understood. Tell me your idea." My face has turned as bitter as a bitter gourd. This is really tricky. I simply can't solve it with my abilities. Do you have any good ideas? Yang Yifen retracted his hand. Jian Mei frowned slightly and said, "There is indeed a way. That is taking advantage of the fact that the ghost has not fully matured yet. First, set up an altar. Find a way to release the resentment from the pregnant woman's belly. Forcefully extracted." Just at this point in the story, the little deist priest returned to a smiling expression. He rubbed his hands and said to me, I just came down the mountain not long ago. Haven't learned the essence yet. Holding such a grand ceremony, it's too exhausting. And one careless mistake. It may also worsen the condition of pregnant women. So I need a helper by my side. Are you willing? Looking at the gaze Yang Yifen directed towards me. I pondered briefly, then nodded happily. Just right. I also want to take a look. The ultimate skills of these Taoists, compared to what I experience in the Book of the Dead, the Feng Shui chant learned above. What is really different? We happily reached a cooperation agreement. Yang Yifen immediately stood up with a big smile. Continuing to rub his hands, he said, "This ritual centers around me. After finishing a matter, distribution of rewards. It be torn in half. You tear me apart. No problem, right?" I was taken aback, looking at Yang Yifen's face. The face suddenly became shy, feeling immensely curious inside. He is a little Taoist priest. What do you need so much money for? Good thing I came this time. Mainly, I want to solve the problem of being targeted by others. Is it about money or not? I didn't think much of it. So they nodded in agreement. Good. You 6, I 4. It's settled then. Lio Fan, you are really straightforward. I just knew myself. I definitely didn't mistake the person. Yang Yifen immediately smiled with squinty eyes. Extend your hand. Hook your arm around mine, along with his features that are attached together. It gives a particularly sleazy sense of trying to help the world. It sent a chill down my spine. Deist practitioner, what a sight this bird is! Caused a commotion. The sky gradually darkened. Yang Yifen had prepared the steps for the ritual in advance. This time, Xai took the lead. I'm just a sidekick tagging along. It's quite nice to have some leisure. Did not participate much in the arrangement of the altar. Mona women has already been invited back to the living room downstairs, according to Yang Yifen's instructions. I brought a lot of glutinous rice and raw eggs, including items such as Zhu Sha and Jai Zhu Zion, holding a 7-star lamp. Follow her upstairs. Once again, I stepped into the bedroom of the pregnant Chen Yun. She is still in a deep sleep. The yellowish face was covered in black paint. Under the light of the 7-star lantern, pale, sallow, and withered, looked unusually haggard. I walked to the bedside, gently lift the pregnant woman's right eyelid. Take a careful look. I noticed the crystalline look in her eyes starting to fade. It seems there isn't much consciousness left. Repeatedly fiddled with it several times. There was no response at all. I couldn't help but feel worried. Yang Yifen, although he is a Taoist priest. They look way too young. Just like me, a novice. I don't know about this kid. Is there really a way to exorcise the evil from her? I'm still thinking about things. Yang Yifen has already coughed once. Indicate to me to hurry up and take action. I nodded. Immediately take out a blood-stained thread. Module line. Add 3 years or more of blood soaking in the mechanisms. Store it after drying. This is how the special blood-binding thread used to bind spirits is made. The effects of the auxiliary methods are outstanding. Essential items for wandering the Jianghu. Tie up the limbs and body separately. Strap her entire body to the bed to avoid the pregnant woman suddenly struggling during the ritual. Disrupt our plans. Tie up the bloodline. I placed the 7-star lamp opposite the bed. Silently took 2 steps back. Nod to Yang Yifen. He understood instinctively. Changed to a very serious expression again. First, a stick of yellow incense was lit. I bowed in the southeast direction, muttering words under my breath. It seems like they are fervently praying for something. then took a bowl of vinegar noodles. There is purified water inside, mixed with incense ash, the remnants of yellow paper and ink fragments. Take a sip. Start spraying around the room. I have been quietly paying attention to this guy's actions. He spat out a mouthful of clean water, spread out in the room, forming a large area of mist, nodding quietly in my heart. This guy doesn't look very serious. The set of rituals that can be performed, but appeared quite adept. He doesn't seem to be that kind of wandering con artist. The mist created a faint hue in the air. Yang Yifan then took out the wooden sword at the right moment, stepping lightly without a sound, starting to step forward on the ground. At the same time, words were murmured in the air, chanting the specialized incantations of Taoism. As the chanting of those spells grew louder, I also feel the cold. There is clearly no wind in the bedroom, but it was chillingly cold. The saint's giggle rises from the tailbone, strangely lingered at the bedroom door. At this moment, I had already sensed something. Suddenly looked at the gas star lamp. Indeed, I saw the flame on the wick is floating in a strange manner, affected by that cold wind. The flame has been reduced to a small dot the size of a mung bean. The emitted color is a grim, sickly green. Can't sense any warmth at all. Here it comes. My heart tightened, looking back at the person stepping on the Kai-Star steps. He noticed his eyebrows twitching fiercely. Suddenly, he pointed the peach wood sword forward, whispering Wu Yang Tianzan. Then he pointed at the pregnant woman, Chen Yun. He shouted sternly, "You're evil that harms others. Hurry up and act quickly." As soon as he finished speaking, Chen Yun, who was originally lying in bed, suddenly there was a reaction. First, there was a rolling sensation in the throat, emitting a hoarse heh-heh sound. It feels like there's a phlegm stuck in there. Cannot spit it out, cannot swallow it down. About 3 to 5 seconds later, his throat's rolling frequency became faster. Slowly, the corners of his mouth curled up. The deep, low-pitched chuckle echoed. Laughter. The body began to twist unnaturally, like a snake nailed to the bedboard. That eerie, twisted posture. It doesn't look like something a living person could do. Hold him down. Yang Yifan pricked a royal token with the tip of his sword, shouted at me loudly. "Okay," without saying a word. Hurry and jump to the head of the bed. I can't even pay attention to the pregnant woman's reaction. Hastily pressed down on his struggling shoulders. Fix the person tightly on top. At this moment, Yang Yifan also began to walk with more effort. At the same time, he pointed the tip of the sword. He unbuttoned the nightgown on Chen Yun's abdomen, exposing the slightly bulging lower abdomen. The skin on the lower abdomen is dark purple. Deep within the pores, a faint, eerie gray mist wafted through the air, faintly visible beneath the cortex. It looks extremely creepy. Such strong resentment. Yang Yifan's expression darkened. Quickly cut your left middle finger. He fiercely pressed down on Chen Yunwei Long's belly. The brush dances like a dragon and a snake. Quickly began to draw talismans, winding blood-red lines under his middle finger, gradually converging into a line. Don't say it. Take a deep breath. Suddenly spray at the room. The yang energy immediately shot onto the talisman. In an instant, the talisman seemed to come alive. With the pregnant woman's breath, his lower abdomen rose and fell. The talisman stuck on top, also turning in a strange way. A faint warmth of the sun permeates the air. A strange sound slowly permeates from the belly. As Yang Yifan and I eagerly awaited, when you feel that things can be resolved quickly. Chen Yun has been in a coma. Suddenly opened his mouth wide, let out an extremely sharp scream. The next second, beneath those red runes, a gray smoke suddenly spread. These thick smoke and the yang energy in the talisman neutralized each other, emitting a sizzling burnt smell. The smoke made Yang Yifen and me keep retreating. A strange scene continued to unfold. Beneath Chen Yun's gently smoking lower abdomen, a large bump gradually formed. It seems like something is there, about to burst out of my belly. Meanwhile, Chen Yun's screams grew even more piercing. Despite being tightly bound by the chicken bloodline, the frequency of struggles is increasing rapidly. Those blood vessels were almost digging into his flesh, but the pregnant woman was completely unaware, with his piteous cries echoing through the air. The cold wind in the room grew increasingly intense. At the same time, the 7-star lamp I placed on the dark table, it swayed faster and faster. The tragic green flame, reflected on the dark blue-black belly of the clouds, that raised area, also constantly twisting like a cave. A strange human face gradually formed. It seemed to have grown in the pregnant woman's belly. The facial features are somewhat blurred, but I clearly sensed that this thing is grinning. I smiled at Chang and Yang Yifen. Not good. Someone is using magic to disrupt my plan to catch crabs. Yang Yifen suddenly had a bright idea, suddenly pulled out a talisman paper, quickly ran to the bedside. He fear-selleth talisman paper onto the blurred face. Moment, the bulge of the heavy clouds sank down again, but the evil aura in the belly, but was desperately fleeing. It was quickly relocated to another place. Chen Yan suddenly opened his eyes wide, lifted the iron-gray corners of his mouth, continuously letting out a chilling, eerie chuckle. I was stared down by his sinister gaze. Suddenly my heart tightened, like being pricked by a needle on the back. The entire scalp instantly felt numb. The pregnant woman lay motionless on the bed, with eyes that are bloodshot from glaring, directly oriented towards us. I feel completely uncomfortable, silently shifting my heels. No matter which direction I move in, her eyes will also follow in my footsteps, turning towards there. Always maintain the posture of staring at me. Yang Yifen shouted, "Not possible. This ghost carries too much resentment. I can hardly hold it in anymore. Quickly use your fingers to seal this lady's eyes. Never let her remember your appearance." I cursed quietly in my heart. This little Taoist has some skills. But there, it's just that little bit. The resentment of the ghost cannot be suppressed at all. Thinking of this, I can only brace myself and charge forward, a feather duster handed over by Yang Yifen, bitterly glued to the tumultuous eyes of Chen Yun. Her gaze was sharp. It pierces deeply like an eagle's talon. I know in my heart, this expression does not belong to a pregnant woman at all, but in her womb, the fetus filled with immense hatred, once it remembers your appearance. This means being completely targeted. It's good to have been tempered for so long. I am no longer that foolish kid who knew nothing. Seeing the situation is critical, immediately joined the kneeling faction. At the same time, he pulled out 2 pieces of clothing, one left, one right. Seal shut those resentful eyes tightly. The next second, I felt the direct touch of fingers. It felt like touching a layer of ice. That eerie, cold atmosphere surged wildly upward. My fingertips are almost numb from the cold, even if my eyes are covered. Her eyes continued to roll around erratically. The yang energy on the talisman. It's impossible to suppress such intense resentment. In an instant, the talisman paper in my hand also turned yellow and charred, as if being scorched by flames. Gradually losing desire, a thick black smoke billowed out. This is bad. Just these two talismans. It's impossible to suppress such strong evil energy. I was drenched in cold sweat. He looked at Yang Yifen for help. Yang Yifen was also reciting a spell at that moment. I grabbed a handful of chopsticks, forcefully stuffed into Chen Yun's mouth, forcing him to open the corners of his mouth. Yang Yifen immediately reached for the bamboo basket. Take out a raw egg, forcefully stuffed into Chen Yun's mouth. Pachai, the transparent green juice flows out, eroded by the darkness within him, quickly turned into a deep black color, emitting a strong fishy odor, dripping from the corner of his mouth onto the floor. In these flying bullets, it still emits an extremely strong stench. The smoke is making my eyes tear up. I feel like I'm going to choke. Qi Chenyun still did not stop struggling, even though his mouth was stuffed with cotton candy, and the corners of the eyes widened with cracks. But it became increasingly malicious. Continuous hee-hee growls came from the mouth, so fierce it's unbelievable. I gripped the chopsticks tightly. A surge of emotion erupted within. I can only free up one more hand. Go and hold his shoulder. Otherwise, Chen Yun struggles, under the control of the ghostly voice. The woman struggled with great strength. Mia Deng Yifen, two big men exert all their strength, could not push him back down either. Not only that, the chicken blood lines tied around his body. It is also constantly cracking. Chen Yun trembled all over like a sieve, but the body slowly sat up, completely out of our control. What's worse is that the people downstairs heard his anguished screams. They all rushed towards the bedroom. After a while, I heard the sound of frantic banging on the door. Simultaneously arriving, Meng Na's father shouted anxiously, "Wife, what happened? What did you do to my wife? Don't come over." Yang Yifen's expression changed dramatically, hastily shouted at the entrance. But it was too late. Only a loud bang was heard. The bedroom door was violently slammed open. Meng Na's dad stumbled into the bedroom and fell to the ground. Meanwhile, after seeing Meng Na's dad, Chen Yun's struggle became more frantic. Suddenly, a sinister roar echoed. "I want you dead." Then he wildly waved his arms. Suddenly, I was thrown together with Yang Yifen. With a fierce expression, it pounced on Meng Na's father. Wife, what are you doing?" "It's me. It's me." Meng Na's dad never expected to encounter something like this. Looking with a pale face, Chen Yun, as fierce as a tearing ghost, contended with the features, shouting maliciously, "Go to hell. I want you to die. Stop it." Yang Yifen and I had no choice but to charge at it again. One left, one right, desperately prying open the pregnant woman's arms. Back on track. The pregnant woman became as strong as an ox. Struggling desperately, a hoarse, strange roar continued to emanate from his mouth. The voice was sharp and filled with resentment, completely unlike a normal pregnant woman. Yang Yifen and I used all our strength, finally managed to drag her back. I found that Yang Yifen's skills are not impressive. He does have quite a bit of strength when things get serious. It seems stronger than me, directly flipped over and jumped onto the pregnant woman's cup. "Clear your hands. Firmly hold her chin. Otherwise, Chen Yun would have the chance to bite Meng Na's dad." I can only sit on my knees, pressing a finger against Chen Yunjin's terrifying forehead, reciting quickly in my mouth the cursed spells learned from the Book of the Dead. These spells can connect with the energies of heaven, earth, and spirits, can dissipate strength, urge the evil spirits to move on, transcending the spirits. But due to insufficient cultivation, I can't quickly enter a meditative state. I'm not even sure about the spell I just recited. Is it really useful? Fortunately, Yang Yifen also began to chant a spell. He recited the incantation quickly and urgently, like a heavy rain in the red center, with a buzzing sound. Chanting a spell, he grabbed the peach wood sword, frantically poking at Chen Yun's cup, trying to seal the resentment swirling within him. It lasted about 2 minutes. I have recited the spell several times. Chen Yun finally stopped struggling, trembling all over, foaming at the mouth. The eyes rolled up, breathing became very rapid. Yang Yifen exclaimed that it was bad news, hurried and shouted out loud, "Not good. This ghost eagle wants to drain the life force of the pregnant sister." Struggling in vain. Once he succeeds, the pregnant woman may have lost all hope. Do you have a way to restrain him? I rolled my eyes in frustration. It was agreed in advance. My lord, I will assist. Let's talk about my half-baked stuff. Where can I find the method to restrain the vengeful spirits? Seeing me silent, Yang Yifen's face showed fluctuating emotions, until Chen Yun's breath grew weaker and weaker. It is nearly non-existent. This time, he gritted his teeth. It seems like a certain decision has been made. Directly throw down the peach-wood sword. A rustling in the pocket. Take out a blue talisman paper. Shouted with a pained expression. Rely on. Today the channel is at a loss. I can only take out this last resort talisman to give it a try. Done speaking. He bit down hard on his tongue. A mouthful of fresh blood splattered onto the blue talisman paper. With a flick of the wrist, heavily pressed down on Chen Yun's head. A wave of positive energy immediately spread from the blue talisman. I also felt the air become charged. An indescribable aura rapidly spread. The air became extremely thick and sticky, almost unable to breathe. Then the tail end of the talisman paper unexpectedly emitted a hint of blue. The pure flame swiftly merged into Chen Yun's body. It happened in an instant. The menacing atmosphere that once surrounded was consumed by the floating fire. Chen Yun let out a tragic cry in his struggle, fell straight to the ground. A large amount of white foam spewed from his mouth. The ghostly sound within him couldn't withstand the floating fire of thought power. Transformed into a black mist, emerged from the diagnostic point on Chen Yun's nape, racing swiftly out of the window. Where to go? My expression is grim. Suddenly jumped up and drew the from his waist. With a heavy strike, he struck at the mass of black mist. A loud sound suddenly echoed through the air, like a broken thread. The black mist was immediately cut open by the blade, revealing the appearance of a giant-headed monster eagle, struggling wildly in the air. In the powerful voice, there was endless resentment and sorrow. Before long, that dark mist completely vanished. The cold and eerie atmosphere lingering in the air gradually settled down. Dog appointment? Finally got it done. I took a deep breath, put away the slashing knife. He fell heavily to the ground. Cold sweat unconsciously trickled down my face. Yang Yifen choked on his tears like a dog. But he didn't stop to catch his breath, but with a face full of regret. Look at that blue support. That expression was like a lost pastry. It feels like a funeral, completely disregarding her own family's demeanor. Yan Zai Pai, this is what my master gave me to protect my life when I came down the mountain, with a whistle and a call. This time I really lost out at Grandma's house. I find this little Taoist priest quite interesting. Wiped away a cold sweat. I was just about to tease him a bit. Magna's father stumbled and got back up, pushed us away, hugging Chen Yun tightly, looking at his haggard, sallow cheeks, sweating profusely from anxiety. What should I do? He is like this now. Will there be any danger to life? I just dreamed of Dad. Say it won't happen. The resentment within Chen Yun, it has already been forcibly dispersed by us, will no longer endanger his safety. It's just a pity. Feet is still in the womb, because too many nutrients from his body were absorbed by the ghost eagle. So there are no signs of life anymore. We can only send you to the hospital for now. Emergency treatment was conducted. Meng Na's father looked heartbroken, holding his little darling in his arms. The other hand repeatedly rests on his beloved wife. A slightly protruding belly, silent and speechless. I understand very well. He is a rather traditional person. About the child in Chen Yun's belly. Seeing is more important than anything else. But until now, it's useless to say anything else. Had no choice but to stand up panting. Called 120 for emergency assistance for him. Half an hour later, we took Chen Yun to the hospital together. After urgent treatment, the pregnant woman's vital signs remained stable. Everything went as I expected. The baby in his womb, because that resentment has disappeared, has lost all signs of life. The fate of a lost child remains unfulfilled. Mona's dead naturally had a heart full of bitterness. Crouching at the door of the operating room, it took me half a day to recover. I don't know how to comfort you either. Then he patted Yang Yifin's shoulder. He gestured for him to come outside and chat with me. Arrived at a quiet area near the hospital. I found a relatively cool corner to sit down. Took a drag of the smoke, looking at the somewhat unserious young dais beside me. Ask him how he feels this should be handled. Chen Yun's stillborn fetus in her womb, already resolved through our joint efforts. But this does not mean the troubles for the Meng family are over, based on my understanding of that enemy. As long as he doesn't get caught for a day, the conspiracy against the Meng family will not end until a day passes. Yang Yifan was also quite troubled, patted his face and squeezed through. If it is a general haunting, it's basically done now. The trouble lies with that guy hiding in the shadows, causing trouble. Maybe they are hiding somewhere right now, secretly watching us. I took a breath, rubbing the temples. I really don't understand what grudge or resentment there is. They were determined to drive the other party to the brink of destruction. Even I, as a Feng Shui master, have held a grudge. My words caught Yang Yifan off guard. He immediately turned to look at me, asking what happened. I then reflected on myself from the night before. The same thing was said about being brainwashed by the little ghost. Yang Yifan fell into deep thought after hearing that. About 10 seconds later, this guy suddenly let out a strange laugh. Liao Fan, have you ever thought about it? What method does the other party rely on? That's how easily I could find your home address. I didn't answer. I also find this matter quite suspicious. Seeing me not respond, Yang Yifan resumed his playful and cynical demeanor, patted my shoulder and said, according to your own words, you were invited by Mona. Help arrange the Feng Shui. Completely cut off from the rest of the Meng family. It is even more impossible to know the enemies of the Meng family than the only person who might know your home address. Who could it be? As soon as he spoke, my heart suddenly skipped a beat, raising my head in disbelief. Exclaimed, what do you mean? Are you trying to say this person is a dream? It's impossible. He himself is also bound by a curse. Last time, I barely saved my life by relying on myself. How could I possibly sell my home address? The hearts of the world. Who can say for sure? Yang Yifan's demeanor is profound and mysterious. Shaking his head, he let out a dark, cold laugh. You might not have noticed. Just now, when we lifted Chen Yan onto the ambulance, Mona stood at the villa entrance watching. Look at her expression. It seems that saving Chen Yun has affected us. Feeling very disappointed. In my heart, there is also a light. I recalled yesterday afternoon, the first time I walked out of Chen Yun's room, the words that Mona secretly shared with me. Her expression quickly fell. If it really is Mona pulling the strings behind the scenes, then everything can be explained. Just, she is a girl in her early 20s. How can someone have such scheming and depth? How is it possible to contact that sorcerer? Yang Yifen's mother said with a sigh. This is indeed not something a girl could do. I guess Mona probably isn't the mastermind behind this. Behind her, there must be a calculating person giving directions. Yang Yifen's words left me deep in thought. I pondered back and forth for a long time, suddenly realized something. Suddenly, a light went off in my mind, sighing and saying, "That's right. Mona's dad and Chen Yun are not the original couple. He was once divorced. Well, Ed, the person behind this matter, she is Mona's biological mother. There is indeed that possibility." Yang Yifen pressed his lips together. A hint of a mischievous smile appeared, suddenly stood up and said, "All right then, since we have seen this kind of thing, just do good deeds to the end. Help Boss Meng investigate the truth of the entire matter." Okay, I nodded immediately, expressed agreement, although I usually don't meddle in other people's business. But if Yang Yifen's inference is correct, then it proves that I was completely played before. If we can't figure this out, even I won't be satisfied. After making up her mind, we returned to the corridor of the operating room. Find Boss Meng, who is smoking by the door. She expressed her doubts to him. They also inquired about Meng Na's usual character. Speaking of my daughter, Boss Meng was fuming with anger. Couldn't help but sigh. Nana has been very spoiled since she was young. I often associate with some questionable people. At a young age, even studying feels daunting, and has a particularly rebellious personality. Always keeps me worried. At this point in the story, Boss Men sighed again. Light a cigarette and take a couple of puffs. The face is full of the weariness and helplessness of being a middle-aged person. Shaking his head, Mona has such a bad temper. It's all because of the way my ex-wife spoiled me. Her ex-wife has a fiery personality. No matter what they do, they are very strong and domineering. Before, the boss looked upon the child with favor, enduring it all, until Mona graduated from high school. The divorce was proposed decisively, even going so far as to divide the family's property. But her ex-wife was not willing to give up. Not only does he come to the company to cause trouble every now and then, they also used many unethical methods. Secretly investigate one's own information. Even ran to the Business Administration Bureau. Reported my own tax evasion. I don't know what's going on. In the past 6 months, my ex-wife suddenly quieted down. I guess they feel they can't get any benefits from me, so just give up. After listening to Boss Meng's story, I have a good understanding of both my and Yang Yifen's feelings. Chewing looked at each other. They all nodded in agreement. It turns out, our ex-wife never chose to stay quiet. It just feels like legitimate methods aren't very useful against Boss Meng. That's why I chose a worse and more desperate way. Just, in the entire revenge plan, what role does Mona play? Leaving the hospital, I've been feeling uneasy inside. Logically speaking, Mona may not be a naturally virtuous young lady. It's not that bad after all, especially since she found me first. I was asked to help the Meng family break the cat forest curse. This indicates that she is definitely not the mastermind. Otherwise, it wouldn't have come to the point of taking off pants to fart, bringing unnecessary trouble upon oneself. Thinking of this, I really have a bit of a headache. Couldn't help but rub my forehead. He shared all his views with Yang Yifen, but it made the other person burst into laughter. Liao Fan, you are too heavy-hearted. Always likes to complicate simple problems. Since I can't make sense of it, let's just not think about it for now. Wait until we find out the cause of the matter. Isn't that everything? I smiled bitterly. Said they want to investigate the cause. Nothing is simple, Yang Yifen said with a mischievous smile. If you want others not to know, unless one acts for oneself. If Meng Na is really connected to this matter, can you guess what she is doing now? This statement instantly inspired me. He slapped his thigh suddenly. That's right. If our guess is correct, Meng Na will definitely contact her birth mother. Tell each other everything that happened last night. Just keep your eyes on this girl. You should be able to follow the clues to find the source. Uncover the truth of the matter. Finally, I've seen the light. Yang Yifen couldn't help but smile. Nod slightly. I said it correctly. Then we immediately took a taxi, returned to the Meng family's villa. Since we sent Chen Yan to the hospital, Meng Na has not shown up, but stayed in that house instead. Clean up the mess. This time, Yang Yifen and I dived back into the villa, did not choose to enter through the front door, but instead went around to the white flower grove behind the villa. Relying on memory, I felt my way to the backyard. After climbing over the courtyard wall, we climbed directly towards the villa's outer window. Squatting in a hidden corner, they began to monitor Meng Na's every move at home. It's different from what I imagined. After last night's incident, Meng Na seems to have become very irritable. When I pulled back the curtains, cautiously peeking out, I found the girl sitting on the living room sofa, talking on the phone. He shouted angrily into the phone, "How can you do this? Dealing with that vixen is one thing. Why did my dad design it together too? This is simply too much. Because it's quite far away." I couldn't make out what was being said on the other end of the phone. Only Meng Na's expression looked particularly annoyed. After murmuring a few words to the phone, "Speak loudly. F, where are you now? I'll come see you right away. What do you want to say? Let's talk face to face." Finished speaking, Meng Na angrily hung up the phone, ran into the bedroom to change clothes. I see everything. Couldn't help but look away. Looked at Yang Yifen with a puzzled gaze. He smiled darkly. Two eyes only shine brightly, showing a particularly sneaky expression. Whispered softly, "Do you see it? This girl simply can't keep her composure." As I expected, I made direct contact with the person behind it. Just keep up with her. Then we can completely solve the mystery. I frowned and said, "But we do not have enough tracking means. Meng Na drives out. We can't always just follow behind the car. Keep running. There's no need to worry about this. The mountain man has his own clever tricks." Yang Yifen winked at me. That kind of beaming expression. It makes me want to punch him in the nose. Before long, I saw Meng Na change into her outfit, running angrily towards the underground parking lot. Revved the throttle loudly. In the blink of an eye, he drove the car away from home. Until he left, Yang Yifen and I just jumped out of the window, re-entering the living room. Yang Yifen is agile and fit. After landing, there was no pause. Quickly made his way to Meng Na's bedroom. He suddenly lifted Meng Na's pillow, carefully flipping through under the pillow. I looked completely puzzled. Speaking to the girl, "What are you doing?" "Meng Na is not a criminal. How did you casually end up in a girl's bedroom?" rummaging through everything. Yang Yifan turned back to look at me, blink and speak. Pa, you've grown up so much. I haven't been into a girl's bedroom yet. I'm a bit embarrassed. Touched his nose with his hand. What's so good about entering a woman's bedroom? He stopped speaking. A silent smile. In his eyes was an expression that all men understand. That appearance of being uneasy in the belly. It's truly difficult. Connect him with a Taoist priest. Fortunately, Yang Yifan did not do anything inappropriate. Just turned over the pillow for a while. Soon, I quickly fished out a few strands of hair from below. Quickly jumped out of bed again. He took out a piece of white paper from his pocket. Fingers dancing. Fold the white paper into the shape of a pointing finger, bitten through the middle finger, pointing at someone's back. Drew a talisman. Ed, he found the hair from Meng Yao's pillow, entwined around the person's body, 2 fingers driving together. In one breath, that white finger, and slipped directly from his grasp, floating in mid-air. At the same time, pulled the chicken blood line underfoot, slowly flying away from the villa gate. It feels like flying a kite. Soul-chasing spell. My eyelid twitched. Asked hurriedly, "You are from Maoshan." He smiled but did not answer. Signaled me to hurry up and catch up. Pointed at the one floating in the sky, said, "Follow him, as long as the distance does not exceed 10 miles. We won't fall behind." I nodded. However, in my heart, I wonder about the identity and background of this young Taoist priest. Felt particularly curious. Speaking of magical cultivation, Yang Yifan is not that impressive. It's just slightly better than my half-baked skills. But this girl, how could one understand such a mysterious Maoshan incantation? Unfortunately, Yang Yifan seems very resistant to this issue. Refused to explain to me. Seeing that he was unwilling to speak, I decided to give up on asking further questions. Immediately, we follow the one who points. Crossed several blocks in succession. We walked from dawn until noon. Yang Yifan finally came to a stop, pointing at the one hanging in mid-air, the finger that no longer moves. Took a slight breath. It should be around here. I immediately looked around. I found myself in a large urban village. There are several houses built side by side around, but they didn't know which building Mona had gone to. Yang Yifan withdrew his finger. "Come over and speak to me. My magic skills are lacking. This is as far as I can go. But based on my experience, that girl should be nearby. It won't exceed 200 meters." I nodded. Continue searching along the street. It took about 10 minutes. Just now, at a concealed fork in the road, I found the BMW belonging to Mona. The other side of the car, it is a small independent courtyard. The courtyard gate is wide open. It is kept very tidy inside, but all the doors and windows in the courtyard are tightly shut. I was taken aback, pointing at the small courtyard across the street. He whispered, "It seems that someone is inside. The direction of Mona's hiding place has been determined. I'm about to climb over the wall and sneak into the yard." Yang Yifan gently tugged at my back, shook his head cautiously, pointing with a finger at the main entrance of that mansion, spoke in a lowered voice. "Don't act impulsively. The family set up decorations at the entrance. If you sneak in recklessly, it will definitely expose the target." I stop. He fixed his gaze on the beam at the entrance of the courtyard. Indeed, soon under the beam, discovered a small figure made of grass, choked by the red line, hanging in the center of the main entrance. Not paying attention. Cannot be discovered at all. Yang Yifan looked around. He continued to frown and said, "The owner of this house is an expert. the arrangement of the stone lions at the entrance. There are also many issues. Look at this courtyard wall, like two arms wrapped around. The copper ring on the door. It has also been tampered with. Integrate with the surrounding architectural layout. It resembles the rumored ghost archway. I nodded. I couldn't help but glance at the young Taoist priest with admiration. You're right. The courtyard inside and out, except for some diamond-shaped stones. Not a single weed in sight. A layer of lime was spread at the entrance, clearly meant to conceal the new malevolence. If I'm not mistaken, in the courtyard there is mostly a worshipped ancient spirit child, reflecting on that night, the scene of being disturbed by a ghostly child in my dreams. I am already about 80 to 90% sure. This guy hiding in the back, right here. Yang Yifen was somewhat troubled. I looked at him and said, "Do you have a way? Break the killing formation here." I nodded. There is a saying. Once the formation of the killing array here is broken, the people in the room will inevitably be on alert. I'm just afraid it might come out and work against us. Yang Yifen, however, did not take it to heart. He chuckled and said, "I'll leave the matter of breaking the formation to you. But if the person inside really breaks out, I'm just responsible for dealing with him." All right. The sword exudes such confidence, although I still have some doubts in my heart. But I had no choice but to agree reluctantly. I quickly walked toward that courtyard, looked around at all sides. Then a piece of raw stone about half a person tall was selected, bended down and climbed up. Take out of 5 dio pliers, gently pressed in the middle of the raw stone, passed through the hands of 100 people, full of vitality, can be used to hold the line, since the other party is using the Gui Tong. A deadly trap was set up in the courtyard. I will use the 5-element claw to respond. Forcefully broke his Feng Shui evil formation. Put down the good 5 claw pliers. I jumped down again, using heart-wrenching calculations, searched in 5 directions. Remove the 7-star nails. Arrange according to the 5 elements: metal, wood, water, fire, earth, the tips of 5 long nails, confronting the main gate of the yard. To harness the yang energy of the 5 elements formation, forcefully dispelling the evil aura of the cult at the door. After setting up the yang formation, I sprinkled vermilion, lock in the 5 focal points, take out another peachwood short sword, slowly retreated behind the raw stone. Jingjai lowered the peachwood short sword again, drove straight into the square hole at the center of the 5 earth pincers. HMPH. The yang energy of the 5 elements array is activated as before. In an instant, the underground trembled. A surge of explosive sunlight erupted. 2 stone lions facing the gate of the courtyard. The stone lion was originally brought in to ward off killers, but was manipulated and transformed by dark magic, merged with the killing formation, after being eroded by the yang energy. In the eyes of the stone lion, immediately strange blood began to seep out. At the same time, a plume of white smoke surged from the main gate. It felt as if the earth's veins were shaken, suddenly shivered. In the eyes of the unaware, the ground just trembled slightly. It's not even worth calling it a firecracker, the malevolent energy in the center of the evil formation. But it has already caused a great upheaval. Hit by the solar array's impact, even those 2 large doors began to tremble incessantly. Yin and yang energies clash, formed an independent magnetic field. It lasted only 2 seconds. The opposing formation couldn't hold on any longer. The place where blood flowed from the stone lion's eyes cracked open directly, along with the scarecrow hanging from the beam. With a flap, a great fire ignited, forming a pile of ashes. blown away by the cold wind. The formation has been broken. A chilling shadow flashed across the door, rushed deep into the yard like lightning. I was already prepared. Take out a copper coin. Facing that dark shadow, threw it hard. All they heard was a splash. The place hit by the copper coins. A ghostly flame rose up. In the depths of flickering flames, a hazy ghostly figure, struggling in anguish, twisted into various shapes, ultimately unable to withstand the yang energy of the coins. A loud explosion echoed. A large number of indecisive will-o'-the-wisps formed, gradually disperse. Well done. I just let out a sigh over here. Yang Yifen walked towards me, clapping his hands. A hint of surprise flashed in his eyes, patted my shoulder and praised me. Liao Fan, you don't understand the methods of Feng Shui and Yang formations. You're really sharp. I wonder which master guided you. I let out a bitter laugh, almost sweat beads on my forehead. I can't be bothered to talk. Pointed at the already broken Feng Shui formation in front of the door. Urged Yang Yifen. You said, breaking the formation is up to me. Let's get started soon. It's all up to you now. HMPH. No problem. Isn't this already out? Yang Yifen shook his head and clasped his hands behind his back. Stand tall with your chest out. Standing at the entrance. Suddenly it became urgent. Jeller reached the sky. Still, they don't forget to drink with a cold face. What are the friends doing inside? So shy. Why not come out and meet? As soon as the voice fell, a particularly hoarse voice came from inside the room. Who are you again? Why ruin my good fortune? This voice is particularly hoarse, like a midnight cry, causing people to feel unsettled. But I suddenly recognized the person who is sneering. It was before when I had. The delivery guy who has acted in a rival scene. It really is him. I felt a stir in my heart. Immediately nodded to Yang Yifen with a glance. He nodded silently. Acknowledged. He coughed twice. Raise your gaze and say, you use dark magic to harm others. It's against natural justice. Since I've seen it, I have to take care of it. It's better not to struggle like a cornered beast anymore. Honestly come forward to apologize. This is your only way out. What a joke. The person outside let out another cold laugh. He asked hoarsely, how did you find your way here? Yang Yifen did not respond. I stood tall. Jing I walked up and said, if you want no one to know, unless one acts for oneself. You have hidden yourself very well, but did not know. Mona has been exposed. Oh, it turns out it's because of this naughty girl causing trouble. The person paused for a moment. Then she started to giggle. I am right here. You want to catch me. Why not come over and have a competition? Everyone is in this line of work. Then let's follow the rules of the street. How are you? I thought about scolding the neighbor. It's already this late, and you're still pretending. Immediately pushed Yang Yifen. It's your turn. Hurry up. Quickly stepped back, hiding far away, afraid that when the two face each other, heard myself. Bun, Yang Yifen hasn't gotten into position yet. I saw a crack open in the big door. Immediately, a chill of cursed power enveloped the area. Emitting through the crack of the door, a light gray cloud formed in the sky. Strange and eerie expansion outward. This guy casts spells so quickly. Watching the eerie aura spreading through the crack in the door, my heart tightened all at once. The battles in the art of sorcery are extremely perilous, generally divided into martial and literary struggles. Martial arts is stepping onto the arena. Each relied on their fists and kicks to fight. Survival depends on one's own abilities. encounter someone with darker skin. Perhaps they would take care of the other party on the spot. As for the literary debate, at first glance, it seems quite sophisticated. To put it simply, it is also a clash of magical powers and will. Complete the mental competition. This thing, in the eyes of aliens, it's just two people separated by about 10 meters, reciting spells and exchanging witty banter. Only those within the trade truly understand its depths and complexities. To know, casting the incantation requires a substantial amount of vital blood. The collision of the two spells, regardless of win or lose, it will bring a serious burden to the fighters. Winning that side is good. If we lose, we'll inevitably be invaded by the opponent's dark curse. Good luck. I would vomit 2 tails of blood on the spot. Bad luck. Just 1 life lost. Little Taoist priest, be careful. This guy seems to be something special, staring at the ever-expanding eerie gloom. I was greatly astonished. Hastily reminded Yang Yifen. Yang Yifen, however, remained indifferent. Stand still without fidgeting. There was no hand gesture. There were no incantations either. The gray mist was called Zai Dao. He then slowly rolled up his sleeve. From beneath the cuff, a beam of yellow light shot out. With a swoosh, silence slipped through the crack of the door. I still can't see clearly. What on earth is going on? Then I heard a terrible scream from inside the door. Then there was a loud thud as it hit the ground. The person shouted from inside the door. Hello, despicable. Using a magical tool to harm someone. Yang Yifen leisurely rolled up his sleeves, still laughing so lewdly. Who set the rules for the duel? Cannot rely on magical tools. You can't manage it yourself. I'm hurt, he said, strolling towards that big door. I finally see clearly, under Yang Yifen's sleeves. There was surprisingly a bloodbath the size of a thumb hidden away, deep within the jade tablet. A particularly rich aura surged. At first glance, it's clearly not an ordinary item. It seems to be a spiritual bath cultivated through physical nurturing by Taoists. It turns out that breath from earlier. It is emitted through the blood bath. Dog appointment. Unexpectedly hiding such a treasure on oneself. No wonder they agreed to duel with the other party. I looked dejected. He followed Yang Yifen and walked into the courtyard. The moment the door opened, I saw my face is covered in sores. A young man emanating a stench of decay. Zheng Shifen is in great pain, clutching his chest and lying on the ground. It must have been Yang Yifen who used a spiritual bath to wound me. Good half a day every day.